Thumbnails can make or break your video, literally. You could have the best video on YouTube, but if the thumbnail stinks, nobody is gonna click. Some creators don't know what to do with thumbnails, and others think it's all about the fancy design and shocked faces. But if that were true, then we'd all have a ton of views. The truth is, high-performing thumbnails follow patterns, and when you understand those styles, you can design thumbnails that constantly get clicks. I actually went back a couple of years studying thumbnails from top creators like Ali Abdaal, and when you zoom out like that, you really start to see something interesting. The same styles get repeated time and time again, and not by accident. They work, so why change them? In this video, I'll break down 7 proven thumbnail styles that you can use today to boost your CTR. And at the end, I'll show you how this ties back into your actual editing workflow, because the click is just the beginning. All right, so let's start with the first style, and that is the side-by-side style. So this is one of the most instantly recognizable thumbnail styles you'll see on YouTube. It's where you're comparing before and after, this versus that, or good versus bad. And in my examples from Ali's channel, I have examples for each of these styles from Ali Abdaal, and you'll see that some of them are from a year ago and some are recently in the last few weeks or so. And we're just gonna break down why those work and the reasons that you continue to use them. So I'll throw these up on the screen. Here are 2 examples of the side-by-side style from Ali's channel. You have one from 9 months ago, and you have one from 3 weeks ago. So you'll see here, this is a great way of just putting, 2 contrasting split image style look up there, which causes you to think to yourself, okay, what's better? If this is before and this is after, which one's better? How did they get there from, before? Or, what do they need to do to make that transition? This instantly shows the transformation of something. And so it just causes you to be interested intrinsically, and just looking at that, it makes you want to know a little bit about how they got from one thing to the other thing. So that's just a psychological thing. When you have a split screen, like if you look at the first example that is 3 weeks ago, he's talking about managing his time and using his system. That doesn't necessarily have to use a thumbnail like this. But what he did here is, on the left side, it's gray scale. There's no color. It's a plain computer with a boring calendar. As you can see, it's empty. And so he's just using subtle cues there to make it seem like you are going to get a big transition into the system that he's using, which will fill up your calendar. It'll keep you really organized, and you'll be managing your time really well and not have any issues with that. And so just kind of, you see that before and after. And so your brain just says, all right, I want to know how he got from there all the way to the next point. And then the second example from 9 months ago is very similar. You have on the left a before image, and it's a lot less bright colors. It's not grayscale, but a lot less bright colors. And when you're using someone on screen, you don't necessarily have to do grayscale. You just kind of make it plain and messy. And then obviously he's talking about 7 life lessons that he wish he knew before 30. So obviously before, he's going to be kind of stressed out and not know what he's doing. And then after, he's going to be happy. And, it's just the psychology of that transformation from not knowing those things to knowing those things. And he wish he knew them earlier. So that's a great example of using the side-by-side thumbnail to be able to show the transformation of things. And so our brains, like I said, are wired to notice the contrast and the difference between things. We want to know what's better. We want to know how did they get there. And so that's what earns the clicks. All right, so this one is the second style. It's the Arrow 2 style. That's what I'm calling it. And this one's basically YouTube's greatest hit. So you'll see this anywhere where someone's using an arrow and it's pointing to something. It's pointing to something obvious, something that they want to direct your focus to. And in the 2 examples we have here from Ali, you have one from a year ago and you have one from 2 weeks ago. These are basically the same. I wanted to show you kind of what he does. There's more thumbnails where he uses arrows, and a lot of people use arrows on their thumbnails, but this is basically the exact same thumbnail done a year apart. So it's a different topic. It's about money, They're both about money. And so you see that on the screen, you have a 0 on one side and, either a million or 10K on the other, with a green arrow going and pointing, to that transition. And so these are basically the same thumbnails, but he's using them over and over again because they work. They cause the viewer to want to know, how do I get from 0 to that? So the psychology behind this is you're highlighting something and you're telling people where to look with that arrow. So it doesn't have to be money. In this case, it's using money, but arrows can be pointed to objects. They can be pointing to, specific things that are not, that you want to highlight. And you can even use, more contrast in the arrow, like a red arrow, or obviously here's a green arrow or something like that. And this just draws the viewer's eye. So an arrow creates direction. It makes the eye want to follow what the arrow is doing. So that's the psychology behind it. Your eyes follow the arrows. So if you combine that with something visual, so like here you have the dollar signs and the money, and it's driving curiosity, then it's almost impossible to pass up on. Which brings me to the third style, and that's the activity style. And so thumbnails with motion or emotion instantly feel more alive. So I'll throw these up on the screen. Here are 3 examples from Ollie that are what I call the activity thumbnail. They tell you this, it's a talking head, but it's more about something else is happening, right? So in these examples, you have one from a month ago and then 2 other ones from a year ago. And it's simply like there's not motion in this. Like he's not moving fast or going anywhere necessarily in these shots, but he's doing an activity, right? He's on a computer, he has headphones on, he's looking through things, and it's establishing where he's at. So like, look at the one, why you feel lost in life. And then on the thumbnail, he finishes that sentence and how to fix it. So he's dressed himself up. He's wearing a robe, almost like he doesn't have a job or doesn't know where he's going in life. And he finishes the actual title in the thumbnail, which is a really creative way of doing that. And he actually does this quite often with these activity style videos and thumbnails. And down here from another 1 year ago, how to figure out what you really want in life. And then he continues on the thumbnail and stop feeling lost. So that's a great way of tying in the title to the thumbnail, using that same phrase to kind of carry it into it. But you're just showing yourself in life. You're kind of presenting something that has emotion to it. And so it's not just this cookie cutter, like pointing and smiling on the screen. It's showing you in almost like a real life scenario. That's why it's activity. You're doing something, you're living life, you're experiencing whatever you're talking about, and you're showing that on screen. So those are great examples right here, these 3 of what I call the activity thumbnails. And I think when you connect with real moments, so that's kind of what this is about. When you connect with real moments, people see someone in mid-action, it feels like they've paused the story in progress. So that it feels like there's already a direction going and there's already something happening, and it's frozen here on the thumbnail. And so people want to know, like, what's happening, what's going to go on, how, where are they going from here? And it draws them in as the viewer. So the next style would be the top-down thumbnail style. And so this is a clean, aesthetically flat lay, super popular style on YouTube for productivity creators or technology or anything like that. So here are 2 examples from Ollie's channel, one from a month ago, one from a year ago. And, he has basically just a top-down shot. So you lay down something on a desktop, you have your camera up above it. One of them from a year ago is talking about journaling. So he has his journal out there, his pens out there, and then you just grab random items. You can see like the keyboard, you might journal. There's like rings or a fidget spinner or something over there. There's a plant. Like, you're just bringing stuff in to fill the frame, but not to make it too complex, just to add a little bit more interest, I guess, to the image. And then the one from a month ago, it's talking about, AI saving 10 plus hours. And it's interesting, if you look at this one, I looked back through like all his different thumbnails he used, and he had this one plus like there was one with him in a computer, and it just kind of like went back and forth, and he ended up landing on this one after the video being out for a couple months. This performed the best. It had the iPad. It showed ChatGPT on the front. It has different little UI icons popping up, showing AI, material, and then just random glasses, and again, just a couple other things in the frame. So these are really clean ways to lay out your thumbnail, and they're not like screaming at your face. They're more of a whisper. They look professional. They they bring the attention to the middle of the screen usually. So you usually want your subject in the middle of the screen on one of these, and they're not super busy. So they stand out without all the faces that, if you're scrolling through YouTube, you're going to see a bunch of faces. These thumbnails will stand out on your browse in YouTube. Okay, the fifth style is the big board thumbnail. And so this is one where a creator holds up, or you hold up a big board to the side, or even in front, or some sort of like paper, but it's big in the frame. And this just feels like the creator just stepped away from the whiteboard, right? And their notepad, and it's handwritten. Usually it doesn't have to be handwritten. And the examples here I'm throwing up on the screen from Ollie's, not only one of them has handwritten, font in it. But it feels a little messy, but just raw, and it's visually engaging, because you want to know what they're talking about. So in these three examples, you have one from a couple weeks ago, you have one from 9 months ago, and then you have one from a year ago. And what I want you to notice about this in particular, these thumbnails, this is the exact same pose. So this was a photo of Ollie from at least a year ago, if not older, I believe. And it's just cropped out. The backgrounds are changed and edited to be in different rooms and different places based off of where he's at currently. But it's the same exact pose. His watch is the same. The glare on his glasses are the same. His hair is the exact same. Beard, everything about it of him is the exact same. So they're literally copying and pasting him and the board into multiple thumbnails, and they're just changing what's on the board. They're changing the color of the board in the one 2 weeks ago. So this just shows you don't have to like make something brand new every single time. If something works like this, where you're showing this real process, like he's talking about studying, he's talking about, making money on a couple of different ones. So there's a process he's showing. It's very educational, and you don't need to make a new thumbnail every time. You have a style like this that works. You get it set up right and edited right, and you can use it time and time again. And this is just a great example of something that you'd use for educational purposes. Like if you're doing, teaching something, this would be a good example for that. Cause this right here looks like a course, right? You're going to click on that cause you want to learn it, and it feels behind the scenes. It feels like you're given deeper access into what that creator's talking about, because it's kind of handwritten. It's not like cookie cutter and edited. It looks more like just a whiteboard you're just going to write on and teach something. So it screams and it builds trust. It says, I didn't polish it to death. I'm just showing you the blueprint, right? That's what this looks like. And people want that. They don't want necessarily a super polished every time video that they want to watch when they're learning something like a blueprint or a system or whatever. Having something that's not polished, having something that looks raw and looks like you're going to just show them the blueprint and walk them through it, that builds trust. And that makes it perfect for business breakdowns, like you see on here, how to make money, storytelling content, and any educational content. All right, so the sixth style is the presenting style. And so this is any time that the host on the thumbnail, the person on the thumbnail is like showing you something, right? They're holding something, they're pointing out something right here in their hands. So here in examples from Ollie, we have one month ago, one from a year ago. This is basically the same. These are two different images, but they're basically the same concept here. And so this is really, you're holding a product, you're holding a book, you're, having a computer or an iPad or whatever, you're showing a screen. So they're basically saying, look at this. I found something for you, right? I found something useful for you. That's what this whole presentation type thumbnail is for. It's to show, hey, look here, I found something of value. So that's what this is. You know, you look at his, why everyone needs a personal website. Hey, he found, you know, reasons why. He's showing you the website. If I started a business again today, I do this. He's showing you like the money of this balance, but he's kind of presenting, hey, I have this idea I found for you, and I want you to look at it. That's what this style is for. It taps into the curiosity of the viewer and recommendation, you know, like the recommendation psychology. So it's like, oh, you know, it's someone who thought of me, right? And they have an idea of something they want to share with me. They're recommending to me. So that's what your brain goes through. If someone you trust is showing you this, so like if this is why it's important for you to build trust with your audience, if it's someone you trust that's showing you this, they're more likely to check it out than if, you know, just someone random. So building trust is big for this. And this is why it's especially works especially well for like gear or apps or like resources or other things that you might find or use. You know, like if I was going to talk about, you know, my favorite video editor, or, you know, even the camera I'm using, my favorite camera, like if I presented it to you, right, and you trusted me and I was talking about it, it would be much more, bring much more curiosity, and you'd be more likely to click on the video if I did something like that. All right, this brings me to the seventh and final style, and this is the UI pop-up style. So basically this one mimics actual interface of your devices, and it has different elements that are up on the screen that look like, you know, something you'd see on your app or on your phone or something like that. So in these examples from Ali, one's from just a week ago and another one from 10 months ago. And these are just like topics, right? And so they look like, you know, a post on X or a post, you know, on any platform. It's showing the comments and it's showing the, you know, shares and the likes and all that. And it has his profile and his name, and then it's you know, writing that says it. So basically this is conversational. So this is, you know, good for these topics. Like he's talking about my honest advice to someone who wants financial freedom. He's just going to share his opinion. He's going to share his advice. That's what we do on social platforms. We just share our thoughts, right? So these are great thumbnails for when you're just sharing your thoughts on something. So if you hate your job, please watch this. You don't have to quit. Again, there's another example of him continuing the title into the text on the thumbnail. I love that. I think that's incredibly creative. But overall, this style, he's either sitting there looking at the screen, just smiling. And in this one, he has a cup that he's drinking out of. He's just living life and he's having a conversation with you. So that is what the UI pop-up style is. It's really about the conversational piece of social platforms. You're just sharing your thoughts on that. So these aren't screenshots. They are stylized representations of the software. So you're not just, I mean, you can just, but it's not going to look good if you just screenshot, you know, a tweet or something, or I guess a post on X or a post on Facebook or whatever. Don't just screenshot it. You want to design it and make it look like that, so that it actually fits big enough and shows, and you can see it when the thumbnail's smaller. But often there's floating space and there's depth behind it, and there's, you know, a shadow and that kind of stuff. So this is great, again, for your thoughts and just having a conversation. If you want to get more views and keep people watching, your thumbnails are only half the battle. That's why I made this next video where I break down my 3-step editing system that will cut your editing time in half without losing quality. Click here to watch it, and let's turn those clicks into real growth for your channel.